Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our speaking and listening class again today. We will not be correcting the homework from last time because we need to save time on the video. However, we will correct it later. Today we will be doing close listening. We will be listening for problems and solutions. There is some advice for listening for problems and solutions in this box. Let's read it together. When you listen to problems being discussed, you will often need to decide if the solutions suggested are good ones. Listen for phrases like these to identify the problem and solutions. Okay, so for stating problems, when someone says they have a problem or that someone else has a problem, you might hear these phrases. The first one is, some people have a problem with. For example, some people have a problem with spiders. Another one you might hear is, one problem many people face is. For example, one problem many people face is getting to school on time. When you are listening for solutions, you might hear these phrases. One thing you can do is. For example, one thing you can do is get up earlier in the morning. Another solution phrase you might hear is, I suggest having breakfast earlier in the morning. When listening to solutions, listen critically. Try to determine if the solutions have well-supported arguments or reasons behind them. Try to decide if the solution is a good one. Will the solution work? Or is the solution bad? And will it not work? Okay, let's get started. Our first exercise is to listen to the first half of phobias and answer the questions. Number 1. What is Dr. Kristen Patterson an expert on? Listen for the word expert. Number 2. Why is a reasonable fear of something a good thing? Listen for reasonable fear. Number 3. How do people react when faced with a phobia? Number 4. What was Dr. Patterson's patient Maggie afraid of? Listen for her name, Maggie. Why was it important that she face this phobia? Why was it important that she face this phobia? Okay, guys, I'm going to play the listening now and leave the questions on screen. Remember, you can play the listening as many times as you like by replaying the video. Okay. Here we go. .
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of To Your Health. I've invited Dr. Kristen Patterson, an expert on phobias, to speak with us today. Good morning and welcome.
It's great to be here.
Let's start out with a definition. What is a phobia? Is it just a fear of something?
A phobia is more than just a fear. Everyone has certain fears. This is normal and a good thing because a reasonable fear of something dangerous helps keep us safe. There's a reason to be afraid of some snakes, for example. But this is not a phobia of snakes. A phobia is not reasonable. You fear a snake because it may be harmful. A phobia of snakes, on the other hand, may mean that you can't hike in the forest because you fear you will see a snake. You become frightened of seeing a snake on TV or at the zoo. It's difficult to even look at a photo of one. You feel without power because a phobia has a serious impact on your life. It can stop you from doing what you normally would do.
Are phobias common?
Yes. During their lifetime, more than 10% of people will develop a phobia. One of the most common phobias is the fear of public speaking. Speaking in front of others causes a lot of stress for many of us. But there are many other kinds of phobias, such as the fear of water and fear of spiders.
Oh, I've always hated spiders.
You have? Does this impair your day-to-day activities?
Well, I once saw a spider in my closet and didn't open it for 2 weeks.
You know you may have a phobia of spiders. We can work on how to overcome that a bit later. So, how do people react when they're confronted with a phobia? Often a person's heart will beat faster. It may be difficult for them to breathe. They might get a sick feeling. Other people with phobias may feel helpless and start to panic.
I see.
I had a patient recently that had a terrible phobia of elevators. Let's call her Maggie. One problem Maggie faced was that a recent job promotion required her to move her office from the first floor in her building up to the 10th floor. She was certain that the elevator would break while she was inside, or she'd not have enough air to breathe, or the elevator would fall. Her friends tried to tell her everything would be fine, but it was pointless. She had a strong fear of elevators.
Okay, guys? Remember, you can listen to that as many times as you like to get the answers. Now, for part 2. Part 2 says, listen to the second half of phobias. How did the doctor solve Maggie's problem with elevators? Check the solutions. There are 3 which are not mentioned. This means 9 things you will have to check in here. You will have to pick 9 things from the listening. Let's read them. Realizing she needed help. Watching the elevator. Techniques to help her relax. Standing in the elevator. Physical exercise. Holding her breath in the elevator. Deep breathing. Taking the elevator up only 1 floor. Talking about what scared her. Taking the elevator up 1 floor at a time. Closing her eyes. and taking the elevator to the 10th floor. Alright guys, I'm going to play the listening now, and remember you can listen as many times as you like. Alright, here we go.
That's awful. So, have you been able to help Maggie with her problem? Were you able to find a solution?
We were successful, but it took a long time. The first step was that Maggie needed to realize she needed help. Surprisingly, people sometimes don't want to seek help, or they don't know where to get help. Phobias may be painful, but we can almost always help people with phobias. It's much easier than people think. Maggie and I did some techniques together to help her relax. These techniques were useful because they helped her avoid the physical symptoms. I taught her to take slow, deep breaths. Then she was able to think more clearly about the situation. We then discussed each thought that scared her. It was interesting that she never actually experienced a problem with an elevator. And we talked about how it's always possible to breathe in an elevator. I was worried that she might also have a fear of small places, but this wasn't the case.
So, how did Maggie get to the point where she could take the elevator to work?
First, she had to face her fears. After talking about her fears, and after learning to relax, she started to watch the elevator. In the beginning, she just watched people getting on, getting off, smiling, and talking with others. The next day, she watched it again. But then we stepped in the elevator. Together. It didn't go anywhere. We just let the doors open and close automatically. She was nervous, but by breathing deeply and relaxing, she was in control. The next day, we repeated the first 2 steps and then finally took the elevator up. But only 1 floor. We repeated this over several days, adding 1 floor each day.
So, did she get to her new office?
She did. I went to her office on the 10th floor and called her. I asked her to go into the elevator. She went in. She pressed the 10th floor button, and 2 minutes later, do you know what happened? She stepped out of the elevator. By doing all of those things, she's been able to overcome her phobia. It took just a few days. Now, about that spider in your closet?
I'm afraid we're about out of time. Join us on our next podcast when we talk about...
Okay everybody, remember, listen to that as many times as you like and complete exercises numbers 1 and 2 for next time. Alright, talk to you next time. Bye bye.